Europasaurus, the tiny giant of the Jurassic. Throughout the endless history of Earth, dinosaurs have always stood as colossal icons of power and awe. From the towering Brachiosaurus that stretched their necks like living skyscrapers to the whip-tailed Diplodocus sweeping across forests, and the fortress-like Apatosaurus marching like walking castles. These giants made us believe that being a sauropod meant being massive. Yet, one dinosaur defied this assumption. A creature small in size, but carrying within it one of the most fascinating stories of evolution. That was Europasaurus, the dinosaur scientists called the tiny giant of the Jurassic. The historical background: 154 million years ago. Around 154 million years ago, during the Late Jurassic period, our planet looked vastly different. Europe was not a solid continent as we know today, but rather a patchwork of islands scattered across a shallow inland sea. Each island was like its own microworld, where life had to adapt in unique ways to survive. It was in this fragmented environment, what is now northern Germany, that Europasaurus made its home. Not in endless plains or sprawling forests, but on small, limited islands where space and resources were scarce. Here, a lineage of long-necked sauropods, once massive, underwent a transformation. The result was the extraordinary birth of Europasaurus. Appearance: a miniaturized giant. When paleontologists examined the fossils, they immediately recognized familiar features of a sauropod: a long neck for browsing leaves, pillar-like legs built to carry weight, a long balancing tail, and a small head with peg-shaped teeth designed for stripping foliage. But unlike the colossal bodies of its cousins, Europasaurus was only about 6 meters long and weighed less than a ton. That made it at least 5 times smaller than the typical sauropod giants. If Brachiosaurus was like a 4-story building, then Europasaurus was more comparable to a delivery truck. Side by side, Europasaurus looked like a mini version of a sauropod, but still undeniably majestic in its own right. Island dwarfism, the secret of evolution. The big mystery: why did a member of the giant sauropod family become so small? The answer lies in a fascinating evolutionary phenomenon known as island dwarfism. When large animals are confined to small islands with limited food and space, and with fewer predators, having a huge body becomes a disadvantage. Over generations, smaller individuals survive better. They require less food, reproduce successfully, and adapt more easily. Gradually, the entire species shrinks in size. Europasaurus embodies this perfectly. It is a living example that in evolution, being small can be a strategy for survival. Its world, life among islands. Picture its environment: a chain of islands surrounded by shallow, warm seas. Lush forests of cycads and conifers spread across the land, interspersed with fern meadows and coastal wetlands. Food was available, but not abundant like on mainland ecosystems. Large predators were rare here, since the islands couldn't sustain the appetites of massive carnivores. Thus, Europasaurus lived in a world of relative safety, but one where survival depended on efficient use of limited resources. Diet: a modest banquet. Unlike its titanic relatives that could strip entire forests bare just to fuel themselves, Europasaurus had a far more modest appetite. With its medium-length neck, it mainly browsed on low to mid-level vegetation, shrubs, small trees, and ferns. Its small body required far less food compared to giants like Diplodocus or Apatosaurus. Scientists believe Europasaurus was a selective and steady feeder, carefully grazing without exhausting its surroundings. This sustainable way of feeding may have been the key to its long-term survival on resource-poor islands. Behavior and social life. Though not harassed by giant predators, Europasaurus still lived in small herds for safety and survival benefits. Protection against mid-sized theropods, teamwork in foraging with many eyes searching for vegetation, care for the young, which were always vulnerable. Imagine a small group of 6 to 10 Europasaurus slowly making their way through a forest clearing, necks stretching to nibble leaves, tails swaying gently, feet stomping firmly yet quietly. Comparison with the giants. To highlight Europasaurus's uniqueness, compare it with its relatives. Brachiosaurus, up to 25 meters long, over 40 tons, devouring hundreds of kilos of plants daily. Diplodocus, nearly 30 meters, with a whip-like tail and enormous grazing territory. Apatosaurus, over 20 tons, moving like a fortress. Meanwhile, Europasaurus was just 1/5 of their size, a tiny giant perfectly adapted for small island life. The fossil discovery. The first fossils of Europasaurus were discovered in 1998 in a limestone quarry in northern Germany. Initially, many paleontologists thought they belonged to juveniles of a larger sauropod, but detailed studies of bone microstructures, skull development, and growth patterns revealed something extraordinary. These bones belonged to fully grown adults. This discovery shocked the scientific world. It proved that not all sauropods were destined to be titans. Some evolved down a different, smaller path. Fun facts and mysteries. 1. Rare mini sauropod. Europasaurus is one of the very few known dwarf sauropods. 2. Fast-track evolution. Island dwarfism can occur within just a few million years, a blink in geological time. 3. Full life cycle preserved. Fossils include individuals from juveniles to adults, allowing scientists to reconstruct its entire life history. 4. Extinction theories. Europasaurus may have vanished even before the mass extinction at the end of the Cretaceous. Rising sea levels could have drowned its islands, or merging land masses may have exposed it to competition from mainland giants. Lessons from Europasaurus. The story of Europasaurus is not only a tale of science, but also a lesson in life. It shows us that size isn't everything. Small doesn't mean weak. What truly matters is adaptation to the environment. Even today, this truth applies to humanity. Survival depends less on being the biggest and more on being flexible, efficient, and adaptive. A vision of the Jurassic. Close your eyes and imagine, on a small green island bathed in sunlight, a herd of Europasaurus wanders peacefully. Their necks reach into shrubs, tails swing gently, and their footsteps drum steadily against the forest floor. No thundering predators, no colossal battles, only the rustling of leaves and the distant crash of waves. Amid an age of giants, the humble life of Europasaurus feels like a quiet symphony, gentle yet powerful in its own way. Conclusion: Europasaurus, the tiny giant, was more than just another dinosaur. It was living proof of evolution's creativity and adaptability. It reminded us that nature doesn't follow strict rules. It improvises, experiments, and always finds a way. Though small in stature, Europasaurus left behind a colossal legacy. Its fossils still whisper to us across millions of years. In this harsh world, greatness is not measured in size. Survival belongs to those who adapt.